Okay, so after some sort of humanitarian crisis, we're here with, we have number 80 from Los Angeles. We have Alexander Ioannidis from the volunteer state of Tennessee. Say hi.
Hey, fam, what's good?
We're hoping Alex can survive through this, whatever the hell is going on. He doesn't even know yet. And we have Adrian, or Just My Stupid Opinion, from Canada. We've had him several times from Ontario, right?
Yeah, right in the nation's capital of Ottawa. How you all doing?
So we're going to discuss today a number of topics. Kanye West. Most of them are topics related to, I think, race relations and opinion and things like that. Domestic policy. A few disagreements between myself and one of the other panelists. But first, I noticed that we don't get to talk a lot about health, and Alex has afforded us an opportunity. So I wanted to show this. It's from Personal Tao, and it says, "What is the third eye?" The third eye is our ability to see what might be, to see potential. Everyone has access to his or her third eye. For example, when you have a hunch and act on it, you've used your third eye. But that's only the beginning. Your third eye is a sense, one you can develop to be more refined and accurate than just being a hunch. The third eye is a natural part of every person. One way to think of it as a meta organ that consists of your mind and all of your senses working together as a larger, more powerful sensory organ. So, this is a lot of Buddhist stuff. So I guess, Alex, I'll send this to you. You can meditate on that overnight or something, or, use
Isn't
it.
it the? Isn't it also
Having
called
a
the
third eye right
pineal?
now wouldn't be so bad. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay. So I had to do that, man.
Isn't that also called the pineal gland or something like that, or pineal
Yeah, I
gland?
just saw that too.
Hey, I have a friend who may be joining us.
What is it? The feminist?
No, she's cool.
Ah,
Great.
Who?
Actually, you're her friend on Facebook. We've talked. Not you. Number 80
is it the black chick?
Yes.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I want to welcome to the
Diversity.
chat. I want to welcome to the chat. We also had Zardrell McKnight, who was supposed to be on. He had some sort of technical difficulty. He can't come on. Not as amusing as the other one we were just talking about. Although hopefully, in all seriousness, get well, Alex. I don't know how long he will be able to stay on, and we don't even know what he has. And I'm kind of spooked right now because I saw Alien Covenant last week, so anything could happen.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, that movie was fucking awesome. Anyway, so a lot of news on the racial/political front in the past week and a half. We have Kanye West going on some sort of long Twitter rampage. I saw his interview earlier with Charlemagne the God from what's that station? Is it Power 103, whatever?
Just say the Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast
That's
Club.
That's the easiest way to remember that.
Yeah, I can never remember. But yeah, I used to hear some of his things about football. And then there's also Diamond and Silk. We had a little dispute about that earlier, me and one of the other people here. I think you guys can guess which one.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex. Starbucks, we haven't talked about that yet. I haven't heard anybody's opinion on that. Maybe I heard Alex's. I don't remember.
Oh, screw Starbucks. Don't they get to like private prisons or something?
Well, I don't like Starbucks anyway. I think their coffee is like super overrated. I mean, what do you? I
It's
mean,
overpriced.
yeah, Adrian and number 80. What do you guys think of Starbucks? What was your opinion before this happened?
I never really bothered with Starbucks because I'm too poor to pay for a $5 drink. And again, I agree with you. It's overrated. I'm a simple guy. I just like a plain cup of coffee, some sugar and some cream in there. So I didn't feel like I never went to Starbucks because of it. I mean, and it was never anything political. I know some people say Starbucks is liberal. I never really just paid any attention to them. I just always thought it was a very, very pretentious people that felt a lot of times seem to drink at Starbucks.
Number 80, you drink at Starbucks before the whole shitstorm.
I don't even drink coffee. To be honest with you, I don't even drink coffee. My girl drinks coffee, but I don't drink coffee. The only reason I would go to Starbucks is to either get pastries or because my boss at my job would give us like free Starbucks gift cards like on the holidays. But I know it's funny because wasn't Starbucks in the national scope not too long ago because they changed their little holiday cup and everybody was all pissed off about it.
Well, that's like every year.
Yeah, that's why I started boycotting them. They need to say Merry Christmas.
Oh, for love of
I'm
God.
joking.
You're joking, right?
I'm trolling, I guess.
I was
Actually,
about
the
to
best
say.
one of that I ever saw was a few years ago. It was on Bill O'Reilly's show where he goes on about how they've won the war on Christmas, and then after he goes on his 5-minute spiel, a Fox News thing comes up right after and it says "Happy Holidays."
That is
Wow.
hilarious.
Yeah, the thing with Starbucks that I think I stopped shopping at Starbucks just because they did the Race Together thing a couple years ago where they said you should like when you go up to your barista, you can have a conversation about race, and I was like, these people are run
What?
by idiots. You never heard of that?
Holy
No.
shit! That is the worst
Really?
decision I've ever heard in my
Dude,
life.
you should have. If I would have known about that, you know how
Right.
quick I would have been in Beverly Hills. I would have been fucking with people
Yeah, but they have Starbucks all over LA. Why would you go to Beverly Hills?
because there's white people there, man. That's the
There's
best
white people all
conversation.
over friggin' LA.
Nah, not really. Where
Well,
I
there's
live at,
homeless
there's
white people.
okay, yeah, I'll give you that much. In downtown LA, yeah, but I would have to go to Beverly Hills. But I mean, I think those will be more entertaining racial conversations, like the ones in Beverly Hills. Don't you agree? Like versus somebody that lives in a diverse area.
Yeah, that
Of
actually.
course, there's a bunch of guilty white liberals.
In
It'd be
Beverly
hilarious.
Hills?
In Beverly
Maybe.
Hills, sure.
Nah, maybe certain parts of Hollywood. I don't know about Beverly Hills though.
Hey, speaking of beverages, though, my business venture, once I finish college, is going to be called Reverend's Refreshments, and it's going to be down in, like, Compton. Y'all should come. It's going to have a juice bar and a coffee shop. $5.
I don't want to die.
You're not going to die. Calm down.
Dude, you gotta go with the jam and juice, you know,
Yeah.
The
I
jam and
like
juice.
Reverend's Refreshments.
or the Paru Punch. Try the Paru Punch.
Are you gonna name it Eye of the Tumbler?
Dude, you have to get the drink Crippin' Cranberry. All
Oh,
right.
my gosh. Yes. No. Yeah.
Yes. No.
You could totally name it after, like, the Crips. You could name a drink after them.
Are you trying to fucking get your business burned down before it even
Yeah, I know.
starts?
That's not fair.
Okay, so I think we've established that none of us is a fan of Starbucks prior to the whole controversy, but let's get that one out of the way because it's already a little stale. What was your reaction to it? Who wants to go first? Alex.
To the whole thing with the two black men?
Yeah.
Dang, that was horrible, man. I mean, I haven't been going to Starbucks since years, but after they told us that if you don't support gay marriage, we don't want your business. And I also don't pay $5 for coffee, but, like, that's just another reason to boycott it. Like, I was pretty pissed. And then,
Alex,
like,
can you speak up?
hold on. Yeah, I was just pretty pissed with what happened, you know? After the whole, like, if you don't support gay marriage, we don't want your business thing. I didn't appreciate that at all. And then this happened. This is like another just big blow. And I mean, it's also $5, so I'm not paying that money for coffee. I just make it myself.
All right. I guess yeah, that was a little hard to follow. You didn't like them because they are against people who are against gay marriage.
Yeah,
Okay. So you already didn't like them, but this gave you like a completely different reason not to like them.
Yeah, this is like if I were gonna start going there again, because from time to time I would stop by, but like it's just another reason to not go there, you know.
So yeah, 80. I don't know if you ever reacted to it on our forums, but well, what was your opinion? Do you think it was like a big deal? Do you think that they should be doing the sensitivity training and shit?
You know what? Honestly, I didn't really see it going that route with the sensitivity training, but I think it's a good idea because, I mean, you see these things like that. You see things like that all over the place. And it's good that a company actually takes the time to say, you know what, we want to correct this issue. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think a week after that incident happened, there was another incident at a Starbucks in LA where this black guy wanted to use the bathroom and the lady told him you had to buy something in order to get the code. And the guy was like, all right, whatever. So he kind of waited, and then this white guy comes out the bathroom, and he's like, hey, quick question. Like, did you have to buy anything before they let you, like, use the bathroom? He's like, no. And he was like, oh, okay. So the guy ends up confronting the lady at the register, and they had, like, this really big back and forth about it. But, I mean, the thing is, you see these things in companies all the time. Like, I've worked in several places. You have people making little smug comments here and there, and you can tell that the way that they think reflects by the way that they treat people. So it's cool that a company will stand up and say, you know what, let's train you guys to act a little better. Is it going to solve the problem completely? No, but it's cool that somebody's actually stepping up and trying to do something about it.
Okay, Adrian, anything to add?
Well, first off, I just think that sensitivity training in general is kind of dumb to begin with, and to put your kind of the whole stores through it, I don't think is. I think it gives off more of a worse image than it really what you're trying to do. Because I was going to say that if you are going to implement this form of sensitivity training, then implement it in the location, but kind of this nationwide, everybody has to go to it, I think is crap. I haven't been in a sensitivity training course, but I have just in previous jobs been put through similar kind of dumb meetings where one person or a couple people screw up, and then everybody's kind of has to be sat through a session. So I'm just in general not really down with sensitivity training. So also I'm more about consistency. So if a business has said it that you have to buy something before you use the washroom, then that's the rule. So you have to abide by it. However, again, I'm about consistency. So that story that 80 was just saying about where the black guy was told he had to pay, and then the white guy didn't have to pay. That's a load of crap. And actually, there was a case that just happened recently that I saw where I think it was a sushi restaurant where a black group of black friends were asked to prepay, but nobody else in the restaurant was asked to prepay, and they ended up winning their court case, a discrimination court case. So I accept if a business sets the rules, but they have to remain consistent about the rules.
Bro.
But as I also understand it, though, these guys were putting up a big fight with it, even including to the cops when they were asked to leave, though. So I think that might say more it was an attitude issue than anything else.
Okay, Alex, your reaction?
Something similar happened to me, actually. So I was going to Krispy Kreme. Do y'all have those where y'all are at?
Krispy Kreme?
I have them here. Yeah.
It's a
of course.
Really good donuts. But we were going, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and only the drive-thru is open at night. And we're going over there, and I went with two black friends, and they asked us to prepay for the thing, and we they wouldn't hand us the donuts until they saw us paying, and that's never happened to me before. I've gone to that drive-thru before, and because they have them hot and ready, they hand me the box, and as I'm pulling out my credit card, and then I was pulling out my card because I was paying for the three of us, and my friend reached out to take it, and she goes, "No, I'm not giving them to you till you give me the card."
Damn.
Wow.
I was like, "Are we being profiled right now?" I didn't think much of it, but now that you mentioned it, it kind of hit me.
Profiled for what?
My two friends were black driving the car. I was sitting in the back seat.
She probably thought they were going to take off with the donuts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So
getting my credit card out and I don't know. Maybe we weren't being. Maybe just
damn, dude, for her to say I'm not handing them to you until you give me the card. I've never heard some shit like that. That's crazy.
Yeah, she's like, you got to give me your card first.
What I think is a real problem for these companies is that often they have to account for customers who have had their shit stolen in their stores, and this is what I've heard is the issue why people get removed from Starbucks, for example, because there are people who come to these stores and they tend to loiter and steal other people's shit when they've gone to the bathroom. People are there to work on projects at a desk or not a desk, but one of those tables, and they leave their stuff unaccompanied, or they go over to the coffee station, the cream station, to get something, and their phone disappears. So that's what I've heard is the most typical reason why people get kicked out of cafes like Starbucks. So, in my opinion, a sensitivity training is ridiculous. The objective of working at a shop is to service the customers, and that includes looking after the customer's belongings. Obviously, you can't. I mean, if the customer gets their shit stolen, that's also on the customer. But the problem that I'm seeing with the sensitivity training, which, by the way, I mean, we could do a different show because it will take too long, about the battle between the Women's March people and the ADL over who's going to deliver the sensitivity training. That in and of itself shows how ridiculous the idea of it is. But sensitivity training does not make the business better. It just makes employees more overly cautious and watching their own backs and whatever. I think sensitivity training is actually going to motivate people not to work at Starbucks. It used to be one of the most liked companies to work for. I remember, I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, it was rated one of the best companies to work for as a low-level employee. I think that's going to stop.
I thought it was In and Out.
No,
I mean, one of them. I didn't say the top, but it was on the list.
But I gotta point something out that you said that kind of like is a very interesting thing to bring up. You said that there's people, right, that hang out in Starbucks all the time and they're working on projects, correct?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen that shit all the time too. I see people sit in Starbucks all the time. They're just sitting there on their laptop. They haven't bought anything and they just hang out there. Now, they don't tell them anything, but according to the story from the two dudes and the people that were also around witnessing it, they didn't do anything. They were just sitting there waiting for their friend. So why is it an issue when these two men are waiting for their friend, but this dude could be working on this project all day and you don't say anything to him? I've also been to numerous Starbucks where they have homeless people sitting inside the fucking Starbucks and they don't say shit to them. They just sit there.
They do. I have seen videos of homeless people getting kicked out of Starbucks.
Yeah, I'm just dirty all the time. I've never been kicked out. I didn't even buy anything half the time.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you just like that just kind of added to the
idea behind doing that. And that's where, I'm not standing here on the side of the corporation per se. I'm saying if you're going to do it, which I've done it before. I've gone, for example, not to Starbucks, but a different chain over here called Panera, which I don't know if it's a national chain.
Yeah, it is.
I've gone there just to, sign, for a small meeting where I had to sign some documents. I remember when I had to sign the, some documents from the county when I bought my house. So I had to meet somebody at a Panera. So yeah, the idea is to be as surreptitious as possible, not to engage the staff at all. And that's how, I mean, it's not the most genius crime to pull off. You just act as inconspicuous as possible. Well, their mistake was asking for the bathroom key, and I think they they got themselves kicked out. When you're doing this to troll the Starbucks, you have to really play low key. This is all about strategy, 0% about right or wrong, and that's how I see it. Does anybody else have anything else about Starbucks, and can we move on to Diamond and Silk?
I think the PR response is basically like, or the sensitivity training, that's basically just a PR response. I mean, it's for show because he knows he's going to lose a lot of business if he doesn't do it,
And I was just going to add in, not talking about this situation specifically, but more of the general situation with the bathroom. I don't know what the area was like where this happened, but I do know that in some places in my city downtown, they do that too because there's a lot of crime in the area. And one thing that has happened in a local coffee shop called Tim Hortons up here, before downtown, they've had prostitutes working out of their bathroom, and they've also had meth heads that have gone in and shoot up. So they've been they monitor their bathrooms a lot. So I know that for some of their policies in certain areas, that's why they're very picky about customers being the ones who use the bathrooms. And then again, I think they're monitoring for how long they're in there.
So it became a Tim Hortons, basically.
Yeah, it did become a Tim Hortons.
Hey, y'all have to...
I do like that chain, though. I think
I'm going to bounce. My eyes really starting to bother me. I'm going to get some rest.
All right, get well, Alex. We're going to send you that article. Do a little,
wash your pillows.
Actually, you know what? I'm not going to give you any advice because it would be a liability. So get well and find somebody qualified to help you. with your eye
You should have
issue.
got some eye wash.
I washed them with soap and water tonight, but
Nah, fool. Don't wash them with soap.
Hey, I have a question though. Don't you have a campus clinic over there in? I can say what city you're in, right?
It was my last day. I did my 2 finals.
Yeah, but they have a clinic there, right?
I'm sure they do, but I've never gone to. I mean, I live in my.
You pay health fees. You might as well.
Yeah, it's like friggin' free.
So I don't.
The nurses are probably like really hot there.
They have really terrible service. It's run by the government. So
look, bro. I mean, you have eye aids. You don't have much to, you know, like you have like an eye problem. Like I wouldn't really give a shit where I'm going.
Tomorrow, so
all right, so Alex, next time you're on, give us an update on the ocular situation, I guess.
Hey, you bet. I love y'all. God bless.
All right, we love ourselves too.
Have a good night.
Good night.
So now there were 3.
We were supposed to have Zardrell on, but he had a technical issue. Hopefully one day we can have him. I see him on Facebook more. I think he just has an issue with Google or something. So what's the next one?
Diamond and Silk.
Yeah, 80. Did you get to say a final word on Starbucks, or you good?
No, we're good. We can move on.
Okay, so Diamond and Silk testimony earlier this week, had a spat with Hank Johnson, had a spat with Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman from Houston, and I think another one with a guy from New York who I forget his name. All 3 of them are members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Very bitter exchanges. So I don't know if Adrian saw it. I think number 80, you did see a post about it, but did you see any video of it?
I watched a brief bit of the video. I didn't watch the whole thing though, because I was on my way to this thing for class.
Oh yeah. Why you guys always going to class? When I was in college, I usually only went to classes when there was actually assignments or something.
No, I had one of my assignments was like I had an interview with my professor. So that was like one of our final assignments. It's really stupid.
Mark Anthony in the comment section remarks, Sheila, quote, "Give me your seat, Jackson Lee." Yeah, she got into a big kerfuffle earlier this year. Over she demanded somebody else's seat on a first class flight from Houston to Washington, D.C. Pinochet says reclaiming my time. That's actually Maxine Waters, not Sheila Jackson Lee.
That shit was hilarious. Oh my God. I used that for a long time. I actually told my supervisor that. He was talking. I told him, I'm reclaiming my time. He didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but I thought it was funny.
Uh-huh. That's interesting.
It's almost as bad as Pocahontas.
Right?
Yeah, I think so anyway, me and number 80, let's end the mystery. We were having a dispute over Diamond and Silk. And you were saying that this really isn't that big of an issue as far as what's going on between them and Facebook. Do you think that it was a waste of time for them to appear before Congress?
I mean, it's whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, I really don't care. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think that somebody should be silenced because of their point of view. Because didn't their Facebook page get deleted because they're considered a threat or something?
If I remember correctly, their Facebook page, that was one of the issues. That was the longer video that I sent you. They were deleted, but there was no explicit communication as far as what the reason was for a few days. And then they got a hold, I guess, of the Ted Cruz office, and Cruz made an issue of it in his questioning of Mark Zuckerberg. And Mark Zuckerberg didn't have an answer to the question of why they'd been kicked off of Facebook, even though it was a major story on Twitter and elsewhere for a few days. And eventually they had to restore her page, or their page. It's 2 women.
Yeah. I was going to tell you something. Well, the only reason I even commented on the post because it was comparing it to that Wolf lady, right?
Well, the issue is that with Michelle Wolf, that this is why there's a comparison, and they were making the comparison. It was from them, and the issue is that the White House Correspondents Association is sort of, and I haven't made a video about this yet, but I might make a video about it. So what was the whole thing with the Michelle Wolf situation? She was invited for a dinner, which is supposedly, and some people think it's stupid now, but it's supposedly to spread goodwill between the White House staff and the press corps, including the, what's her name? The press secretary, Huckabee. And, it did quite the opposite. In fact, it pretty much, it was seen as an insult by the Correspondents Association against the White House because they selected her. She has a very clear agenda based on a lot of her comedy, a lot of her comments throughout the past 4 or 5 years. Not just as far as Trump, but she's very obviously politically motivated in her comedy. She's on the Daily Show now. Yeah. So they selected her, and then she delivers this. But then these are the same correspondents. Most of these newspapers are talking openly about how you need to crack down on fake news, and you need to monitor hate speech, and you need to ban, some of they call people right-wing trolls, or they call them alt-right Nazis. I've had several creators that I watch that are called right-wing Nazis, including, I'll bring up one. Let's see here.
My favorite one is Jordan Peterson, because I know that they don't agree on anything. Like, their biggest difference is individuality and collectivism, yet they continuously say he's a leader of the alt-right.
Well, the one I was going to show was this one, Bunty King, who's also, I think he's from Quebec, and he's a Sikh Canadian, and he's not even a look at this one. He's not even a conservative. He's more of like, I think you would call him sort of on the Jordan Peterson spectrum. He's kind of the type of person who is just a civil liberties guy. He's not super political. He talks more about social issues. So he got into a fight with Tariq Nasheed, who is a hardcore black nationalist, and they banned him. They banned Bunty King mostly because, I really don't understand why it is. So he's been called white nationalist. There are a number of black or Mexican creators that have been called white nationalist, and the press corps doesn't do anything about it. In fact, it's usually even newspapers like the Wall Street Journal that were once thought to be center right are now calling these people alt-right, and those are the people that a lot of us now call conservatives. They're people who everything has to be super respectable and filtered and censored and whatever. For example, Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post is a great example of that. She can't write a single column without calling everybody else who's a Republican a Nazi. Ana Navarro is a good example. So the whole controversy with Diamond and Silk is that these are the type of people that are being censored, as opposed to Michelle Wolf. And the people at the White House Correspondents Association dinner, they're fully in favor of censoring people like Bunty King or Michelle Wolf, or not Michelle Wolf, but what's the lady's name? Michelle Richardson and Lynette Hardaway, they call themselves Diamond and Silk. For those of you that don't know, I'll just bring up their photo for a second. So, I think that's really where the issue is. Number 80. It's the issue is that the White House Correspondents Association dinner was, it was kind of an in-your-face fuck you to a lot of the people there, and even the journalists that were there are saying, it was a disaster. Nobody enjoyed it. They themselves felt uncomfortable, and it's showing. Even people on the left, on the far left, are saying, well, of course they liked it that she was beating up on Donald Trump. But because they're now pretending to be offended in their minds, they're saying, well, this just shows that the media is full of shit.
Mm.
Hey, you look like do you have an eye infection now? Is it contagious?
It's cyber contagious. Nah, I mean, I was just thinking about what you were saying. That's it. The thing is, well, at first when you first posted the article, I just was thinking, like, why are they comparing the two? And I think that the funny thing about it is, I feel like probably people are throwing jabs at the people who are upset about the Michelle Wolf situation because they're like, oh, hey, I thought you guys were all about freedom of speech, but all of a sudden this lady says something that you don't like, and you're all up in arms about it. That's the vibe that I got from the situation.
Well, another issue with Michelle Wolf is that even people on the left, are really, some of them are kind of throwing her under the bus too. Now, and I'm not sure how to mix and match them now, like who's on the left or who's on who's not the fake left now. But one of the things that I noticed earlier, and Lennon McCarthy, who's in the chat, also made an interesting, critique of her comedy routine, which it was pretty much in line with what I was thinking. But one thing that I think is super, it's just ignored in this saga, is that she is a former Wall Street banker. She was with Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns is one of the Wall Street banks that was bailed out by Obama and Bush in the TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief program. So basically her job was bailed out. She ended up working for J.P. Morgan. Only later did she get into comedy, and she ends up within 5 or 6 years. She's writing for Seth Meyers' show, which is shit. I've seen the show. I'll just go ahead and say that among liberal comedians, I think he's the worst of them all. Jimmy Kimmel, for many years, I thought was hilarious. I think he's lost a lot of his talent. Conan O'Brien, I still think is he's brilliant. And Seth Meyers has always been just toxic dog shit. That's basically how I would describe him. I hated him on SNL. So she was writing for him, and then a couple years later, she gets another promotion to The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And a lot of people go through, I don't know if you guys are comedy fans, they go through, 10, 15 years of trying to even make it into comedy at all. There's Owen Benjamin is on YouTube. He has a massive following. He's banned. Nobody cares about him over on their side. Michelle Wolf could give a shit that he's banned on a lot of platforms, even though he has, I think, I'd probably say over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, given that extra background, what do you think now about this Michelle Wolf performance? I mean, you guys, I don't know if you both saw it or neither of you saw it.
I didn't actually end up seeing it. I kind of been off to social media the last couple of days. I browsed Twitter earlier today and saw some people that were flipping a lid over it. But no, I didn't. But yeah, no, as for what she actually said, I can't comment too much. But it's a pretty standard tactic if you ask me, because nobody is actually standard tactic of deflection. I find more just because nobody's actually infringing on her free speech, but she's going to make the claim that it is.
Yeah. What I noticed is that she's I think the same night there were a lot of the journalists from the mainstream media were saying, they were pretty much, they thought it was like a shit show. They couldn't take it. I mean, they were super awkward and uncomfortable, which is that in comedy parlance, that's almost the equivalent of bombing, except, the only thing that would have ruined it is if the reporters themselves had heckled her, but they were on camera. So, the other thing about that is that, first of all, a lot of the people from the mainstream media were saying, oh, it was a bad performance. It was not really what was in the spirit of the dinner. And then there were some people who were saying, what's that, number 80?
I said her abortion joke was horrible. That was like fucking terribly timed.
Yeah, that was really, I don't tend to be really, I can understand Alex is gone. I can understand why he would get offended by it, given, his religious strictures, but I don't get offended by it. It was kind of disgusting in a visceral manner, thinking, what the fuck is she talking about?
It was a bad joke though. What
was the joke?
Oh, it was a fucking abortion joke. It was a terrible
Lennon McCarthy's in the chat is saying it is because she is grotesquely funny and angry, and I don't agree with the angry part, but she's really somebody who, she has a horrible delivery. she was stumbling over her lines a few times, especially during the Trump so broke part. I don't know if I don't think either of you saw that part, but she was making this joke, this 5 different times, Trump so broke. Why? Because what was one of them? He's oh yeah, he's looking for foreign oil in Don Jr.'s hair. I was like, that's really funny. I'm like, okay, but even if it was a funny joke, her delivery was awful. And I have to wonder who watched a performance of hers, because it's not just about content. You could be maybe she's a good comedy writer, but her comedy delivery was just ridiculous. Larry Gerke he's disagreeing with us. He's in the chat. He says, she sucks. I'm just saying it's not worth the Huckabee chick acting so butthurt. Well, she didn't act butthurt on camera, but it was her reaction, just not even laughing and just staring ahead. That was what got everybody else to kind of laugh at it. To not to laugh at it, but to react against her, because they saw it as really, some of the jokes were kind of below the belt, if you will, or I guess it would be below the but below. Well, what do women wear? Ovaries? Yeah, below the ovaries on her. And then there was here's this other comment from his. She slammed the mainstream media several memorable times. Now I saw that on Jimmy Dore, who was saying, "Oh, she was really good. She slammed the mainstream media." Listen, I remember watching Larry. I don't remember if it was Larry Wilmore, but it might have been Jimmy Kimmel. He was also making fun of the mainstream media. That doesn't matter. At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you're supposed to make fun of the media a little. That's part of it. But she said one thing where she's like, Mike Pence is what happens when Anderson Cooper isn't gay. And I was like, okay, another Mike Pence gay joke. Like anybody cares anymore. It just doesn't. It doesn't sound funny.
It's all old jokes.
Yeah, Larry Gerke says even Jimmy Dore said that she had rotten delivery. I don't agree with Jimmy Dore on many things, but I didn't watch his entire video because sometimes he's just repetitive and he screams at the screen, which we don't do here. But I think he can at least appreciate that the delivery was garbage. Then Lennon McCarthy also adds, which I remember from his review, she said that one of the Trump so broke jokes was Trump so broke that he owes money to Russia and he's been compromised or something. He's blackmailable or whatever. And now our Constitution and the Republic is in danger of falling apart. Well, maybe a year ago that joke would have been funny because the evidence would have pointed towards it. The evidence just doesn't hold up anymore. So depending on what side of the aisle you're on, it's either not funny or, nobody cares anymore, or you don't believe the premise of the joke. So it's just not funny. So
I was going to say it's not funny because the punchline is way too long.
Yeah. I don't know. That was like how she delivered it, but, Well, again, I think her little jabs against Sarah were like, they weren't funny, but like they were kind of like, ooh, like it wasn't terrible though.
Well, they were saying, oh, that's a roast. That's how it's supposed to be. Truth, Justice, Peace says the looking for change when he grabs them by their pussy was funny. I don't remember that part. But look, I think if you watch the routine, and even if you agree with her point of view, that had to be one of the worst comedy performances I've seen. And she was obnoxious. I think she was the most obnoxious comedian they could hire without hiring Kathy Griffin, which they couldn't have gotten away with.
Yeah.
That's a bold claim to make that she's more obnoxious than Kathy Griffin. I mean, that's a title right there.
I don't know about that one.
No, I'm saying that she was the most obnoxious comedian besides Kathy Griffin, because they couldn't have gotten away with getting Kathy Griffin for it because she'd already burned all her bridges.
I really think that her comedy routine kind of became stale real quick because it was too focused on one point for too long. Like, I don't know if you ever noticed, like, sometimes, like, you watch stand-up and a comedian stays on one topic a little too long, you're like, all right, move on already.
Yeah, and you know, I wouldn't say that none of her jokes were funny, but you know, she basically sucked the air out of the room. And you know, after that, I went and looked at some of the press that was before the dinner, and also, you know, from her past. And this was a person that, you know, so given my research, I'm fully convinced this is the type of person. She's being groomed by media companies like Comedy Central, for example, which I think is owned by Viacom. She's being groomed to be the next big thing. They did it last year with this other comedian named Hassan Minhaj, also from The Daily Show. And what they're doing is they're now using the White House Correspondents' Dinner. They're basically taking minor league comedians and comedy writers, and they're saying, look, this is your shot. You do this, you get a special on Netflix. You can probably even, in her case, even a show on Netflix. And that's basically what the point of this is. It isn't to amuse the, you know, I don't know what the fuck the purpose of the White House Correspondents' Dinner is anymore, because it doesn't make any sense. But it's not to amuse
paying for a future.
What?
She was paying for her future.
Well, you know, I'm just saying the official purpose doesn't make any sense anymore. The official purpose is to foster like goodwill and between the White House staff and the Correspondents Association, which if that's the goal, that was a tremendous failure. But the real goal, in my opinion, is that these media companies are using this dinner as a way to, you know, jab a thumb in the eye of you know, the Trumps, you know, the Trump family and you know, their cronies, the administration. And you know, therefore this person, they say to them, this is your big shot. If you do this, if you go all, you know, balls to the wall on this, or in her case, you know, boobs to the tube or something, you will get a new show on Netflix, which she is getting. She's getting one at the end of May. So that in my opinion is the purpose of this dinner, and having this type of comedian. So, you know, everybody wants to dump on this Diamond and Silk, those of these people in Congress. But think about it. This is a woman. She was a Wall Street banker. She didn't have really a traditional background in comedy, and there's a lot of, you know, struggling comedians out there financially. She goes into comedy. She has this obnoxious stage presence, and you know, through whatever happened, now she's about to have a show on Netflix. She has that writing gig on The Daily Show. In my opinion, that's real manipulation. And they were questioning these two ladies, Diamond and Silk. You know, they kept asking her, have you been paid by the Trump campaign? When, you know, the documents reveal the payment was in reimbursement of travel costs. So for them, the idea is not to get to the truth. The idea is not to represent their constituents and to be true to a free society and the Constitution. The idea in the minds of these, you know, members of the CBC is to protect an image that, you know, this is the acceptable speech. And if you deviate from it, we will dig into your past and we'll rake you over the coals. Whereas with Michelle Wolf, nobody brought up her past as a Wall Street banker. Is anybody talking about that? Even people on the left, I don't see talking about it that much.
Yeah, I didn't even know she was a banker. But hey.
Yeah,
right, because you guys didn't know who she was, right?
Not really. No,
I knew who she was because I watched The Daily Show from time to time, so I'm aware of her because she replaced that black chick. That black chick was funny as hell.
Who was it?
I forgot her name, dude. She's like this black chick with like dreadlocks or something, but she was funny. And like she left the show because I think she was going to get her own show, but I haven't seen it come into play yet. But she replaced her. But I don't know, like Michelle Wolf is like, it's whatever. But I mean, if Netflix will throw money at Amy Schumer, who's not funny at all to me, then I mean, I can see them giving her a deal.
Personally, The Daily Show died for me when Jon Stewart. Yeah, I don't think I ever watched a full episode ever with Trevor Noah, but I used to watch The Daily Show consistently.
I had high hopes, man, because Trevor Noah, like I saw his stand up like maybe like 2 years before he went on a Daily Show, and I was like, this guy is funny, dude. This little South African dude is hilarious. But then he went on a Daily Show, and it just doesn't. It's not that authenticness, you know. Like it doesn't feel like authentic. Like it seems so staged. Like it doesn't. It doesn't feel real. Like the realest that I ever seen on that show was when him and Tommy Lahren had that debate, that little back and forth. That was probably like the most human I've seen that show, and like authentic, but and organic. But like other than that, like the show's kind of like I don't know, it dried up. I end up like watching like Bill Maher or some shit or like fucking John Oliver.
Right, and I think you guys bring up a point that I've mentioned on my solo videos before, and I think I did a couple days ago that yeah, when Jon Stewart came out with the Daily Show, it was a little. I guess you could call him sort of a pioneer because it was the first time there was a full half-hour news parody show. It used to be Saturday Night Live always had the Weekend Update, which is the same idea, but then. Jon Stewart retires. I wasn't like a crazy fan of Jon Stewart. I was more of a Stephen Colbert fan back in the day, to be honest with you. I thought it was just funnier.
I agree.
And I don't at the time I was much less political. But the thing with Trevor Noah, which I have to agree with 80, is that I did like his stand-up better. But the other issue is that once Stewart retired, they started to clone the Daily Show, or actually, I think even before he retired, they gave John Oliver his show. They gave another show on TBS to Samantha Bee. They gave another show after the Daily Show called The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore, which I thought was just bad.
It was awful.
Yeah, and
it sucks because Larry's good. Like Larry's pretty good. Like I've listened to his podcast, but I don't know. Like after that, it just didn't click right.
Right. So the problem is that there's saturation of the market. And, Pinochet in the chat, who, let's be honest, he has a pretty clear political opinion. He says, you couldn't pay me to watch late night TV. It's cancer. Well, I mean, only 4 or 5 years ago, I was a huge fan of Craig Ferguson. But there's just too many of these people now. It's just, I mean, how many late night shows do you need? They're going to add more late night shows to Netflix again now. So, this is just it's saturation of the market. And by the way, I mean, if you think about it, they're not really doing a much better job than any of the three of us right now. And we're doing it kind of spontaneously. We're bringing people in, off the seat of the pants, and we're basically just commenting on the news, fresh without any writers. And there's shows that do it better than us, and there's shows that their whole point is to troll the news, even though they're reporting on the news. There's InfoWars, and then there's the Young Turks. You could say is parody news. So, it's become basically more of a user-friendly market. Truth, Justice, Peace says, I hated both those shows. Stewart did a good segment on Ron Paul. So, how about anything else to say about Michelle Wolf or Diamond and Silk, guys, or ready to move on?
Yeah, we can move on.
All right, so the last two topics are Kanye West.
Sorry, I was actually muted. I was sorry, I forgot I was muted there.
Okay.
I was just going to say, when we're talking about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I was just going to say that if you're in the middle of a roast, even if it is getting to you, the fact you're in a public area, you should do everything to just laugh it off in the meantime. Because just before in the past, if you ever watch people are getting visibly mad, it doesn't set a very good vibe for everything else going on, and it doesn't look very good on you. So for like someone like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was starting to get pissed off at all the jokes, I would just say that she should do better at holding her poker face and then worrying about it behind closed doors.
Yeah, she was pissed. You can see it, but it made it even more funnier that she was mad.
And exactly, and there's more fun being made of her because we saw her get mad.
Right, but the difference between a full-on roast and the White House Correspondents' Dinner is that, at a full-on roast, I think the one I saw that I remember the most was what's that guy's name? That idiot from All in the Family. Rob Reiner. And, you know, they do like a joke, you know, they'll have a friend of his walk up and say, they say everybody looks nice in a tux. This guy looks like somebody shoved a tree trunk up a penguin's ass or something. So, you know, those were funny jokes because these are people that know each other. This was a woman who, first of all, she's not a well-known comedian. So I think most of the reporters in the room and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, they had no clue who she is. Like if it had been Chris Rock, I think a lot of those people would have laughed. If it had been, what's that lady's name? Wanda Sykes. Or
Wanda
if it had
Sykes is
been,
hilarious.
yeah, Wanda Sykes is one of my favorites. What's that other lady's name? Melissa McCarthy would have been a good choice. You know, I think she's a good comedian. There are
What
good.
about Whoopi Goldberg?
I think Whoopi Goldberg isn't that funny of a comedian.
Nah, it was a joke.
But
her movies.
The thing is that they pick somebody. She's not well known by the audience. She's not well known by the targets of her barbs, and so the familiarity hasn't been built up, and people don't really they don't have any bond with that person. So, you know, yes, she could have faked it. I don't think she went into the dinner, you know, mentally prepared to do that because she probably isn't on good terms with the White House correspondents themselves. So, you know, I think she did, you know, her frustration showed. Kellyanne Conway was another person, but it wasn't just her. I mean, a lot of the reporters were gasping in the audience.
The last three comedians were from Comedy Central, weren't they? Now that I'm thinking about it. Her, the dude before her, and when Obama did it, wasn't it Larry Wilmore?
Larry Wilmore, yeah.
Yeah. So like the last three, and it might be more. I haven't really done the research on that, but that's three already, and that's back to back to back.
Well, Larry Wilmore did have somewhat of a following. I thought, you know, I didn't see much of his performance, but it was overshadowed by him calling Obama the N-word. So even if he did a good job, and I heard that he did do a good job, and I'm not a fan of his, but he apparently he really like riled the press corps, and this was during Obama's last year when, you know, people were you know, basically they had their nose up his ass because they were, oh, bye Obama, you know, we're gonna have to have either Trump or Hillary, those two pieces of shit now. You know, that was the attitude of the media at the time. And Larry Wilmore came on stage and he just torched everybody in the room, apparently, you know, so far as I know. I could be wrong.
Wasn't one of the guys from Key and Peele on there too? Like he did that little skit where he acts like he's Obama's interpreter or something?
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Keegan-Michael Key. Yeah,
that Comedy Central as well.
Right. So the Correspondents' Dinner is kind of a promotional stunt for Comedy Central, but I don't see a problem with that so long as they send somebody who is, you know, who really is a proven talent. I don't think that the last two people, you know, the guy from last year, have you seen anything about him in the past year?
Nope.
Yeah, the guy, he bombed at the dinner. Nobody thought, I mean, nobody in the viewing audience, you know, at home thought there was anything special about it. The guy's whole routine was about, I'm a Muslim and Trump hates me. And, you know, I hope nobody rips that quote from me now. But, you know, the guy's name is Hassan Minhaj. Now he's getting a show on Netflix. The guy was like weird. He was a weirdo. So, you know, that's about it. I think it is a disaster. I think next year it's going to be. It might not even happen. They're talking about it. They might actually cancel it next year.
You want to know who would have been perfect? Would have been perfect. George Carlin.
Yep.
That would have been fucking epic.
Yeah, they would never let him do it, but yeah, he would have been great. Bill Hicks would have been another one. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
So, I think we're gonna move on to Kanye West and Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick, what?
Well, there's a new topic with Colin Kaepernick, and I'll show it. So I don't have any article to share about Kanye West because, you know, basically the whole fucking internet is talking about him.
Just go on his Twitter and just scroll down.
Yeah, we could do that in a second. But Amnesty International this was on April 22nd, they named Kaepernick its ambassador of conscience. So, you know, now an organization that deals with, It says previous award recipients include anti-apartheid campaigner and South African President Nelson Mandela, Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani schoolgirl who campaigned for girls' rights to education, even after surviving being shot by Taliban militants. So now they have Colin Kaepernick in the same company as them. So I'll tell you my opinion on that after we look at Kanye West's Twitter feed. Can't believe we're talking. I think it's weird that for some reason I still can't get over the fact that we're talking about Kanye West.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to somebody that conservatives are praising it, but I'm praising him, and I'm just like, dude, like, you don't realize, like, maybe like 5 years ago, your opinion on him would have been something completely different.
I was going to say that some of these people who were, some of these conservatives who are praising him probably talked some smack about him the day before, even, or at least about Hollywood celebrities the day before. So yeah, I don't know why. Personally, I never had time for Kanye. He always pissed me off. So, like I've said before, like I said, I think on last time I streamed with AC, just that if you are on the right wing or more conservative, it's good that he has such a large platform, and he's getting the more, I guess, Trump conservative message out. But again, if we look back at what his antics have been in the past and the kind of person he is, I don't see why anybody's bothering. Still, the same problems are there.
The thing that's funny though is that he's not very educated on the topics in anything. Because I was watching his interview today, and essentially he's like, "Oh, I don't agree with half the stuff Trump is talking about, but the other half I do." And they were like, "Oh, like what?" He's like, "Well, I agree with the fact that he's that they told him that he couldn't do it and he did it." That's not really like anything.
So you watched the same interview I did, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that didn't make any sense to me. I'm just like, okay, then you just like the fact that you just liked how the underdog actually reached the top. Like that's cool, that's fine. But to straight up just be like, yo, I'm full on supporting this guy. I'm gonna wear his apparel and everything like that because I support and this is something that I want to represent. But then at the same time, you're saying like, oh, you know what? I can't name any of his personal ideas that I like or anything that he stated that I like. So I don't know. It's kind of like, it seems like a publicity stunt to me.
Yeah, I have to give my opinion based also on the same interview that number 80 is talking about, which was with Charlemagne the God from Breakfast Club. So Charlemagne the God is, whatever you think about him, there's some things he says that I think are like absolutely retarded, but he is one of the better interviewers that I see on both YouTube and on the radio. Very, very good interview style, knows how to get like very deep answers out of his guests. But the interview itself, if you listen to it, like number 80 says, he doesn't go in depth about social issues during the interview. Now, remember, that was about a week and a half ago before a lot of the recent crap with Candace Owens is developing even more, and it's getting even thicker. So Kanye's views might have crystallized even stronger since then, because the interview, I think, happened like on April 18th. So the thing about it is this. Most of the interview, if you listen to it, Charlemagne the God will ask Kanye West a question and maybe try to steer it towards the political issue. But Kanye West was talking about his experiences in the hospital and also about his experiences succeeding in the fashion world and in business and stuff like that. So in many sense, in a broader, how many ways can I rephrase this? Okay. What I was seeing there was Kanye West really being a little self-absorbed, and his whole issue here is that it's not about conservatism versus liberalism versus progressivism versus black nationalism. For him, it's about he doesn't want anybody to dictate to him what to think, which I think people of numerous different perspectives can relate to that. The other issue that I was seeing was that he started to believe that, as he was one of the more successful artists under President Obama, he said that the celebrity interactions with Obama left him very unsatisfied. It was almost as if Obama, he knew how to get these celebrities to do photo ops with him and to represent him as if he's, the cool candidate, the cool politician. But he, for example, was talking about a fundraiser which him and other people put on for Obama, where Obama didn't even stay for his performance. And he felt personally insulted by it. So a lot of this is about the Kanye ego. But also, I think it's about him realizing that he doesn't want to be a prop in a political war. Now, you might say that's ironic because some people are using him as a prop right now for conservatism.
Exactly.
It's not. I think it's incorrect. I think the idea here, this is what I think is the important thing about Kanye West, because, since the College Dropout album, which was, I think, 9 or 10 years ago, I haven't really listened to an album of his. I think I've listened to a few songs of his, singles. But I could care less about his views until now. The reason that this is such a big deal is because of the reaction on both sides. It's because of articles like this one over here. I don't know if you've seen it. Personal Tao, what is the third eye? No, not that one. Remember, guys, remind me to send that to Alex.
I swear when you first said it, I thought you were going to bring up something about a brown eye. I was about to lose my shit and laugh.
Well, I need a little pick-me-up, right? So it says, no, Michelle Wolf isn't black, but after her savage takedown at White House Correspondents' Dinner, trade Kanye for her in the racial draft. So that, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if you watch Chappelle's show, Adrian.
That was one of the funniest friggin' things on the Chappelle show was the racial draft.
So she said, despite having killer curls, so this is the superficiality of this. This is from the Griot, which is a pretty well-known Black-oriented internet publication. Despite having killer curls and being attacked online by angry white women, two things closely associated with Black womanhood, Michelle Wolf is not Black. Anytime Wolf does something that raises her national profile, this topic seeps back into public discourse. And then, they go on and on and on. Her saying, why are you, so they talk about her defenses and whatever, and how she's, they basically say, oh, she's based, she's cool or whatever. Well, again, they don't go into her personal background. Now, Kanye West, I don't know much about his, I don't know if he grew up middle class, lower class or whatever. I don't care. I don't care if he's Black, and I don't care if he doesn't want to be Black. But, he's not a Wall Street banker. And I think the reason that he succeeded is because of his musical talent and maybe because of, some of the connections he has in the fashion industry. He's I guess he had some sort of mentorship with Jay-Z in terms of business. Michelle Wolf, I think, is the ultimate, establishment tool. So, number 80, do you think that this whole Kanye thing, it's almost as if, in my opinion, if it wasn't Kanye, it would be somebody else. If somebody else suddenly decided, let's say, Meta World Peace had the same reaction one day. I know he's not as big as Kanye. Do you think that the Black community is ripe for this type of controversy?
You want no? Look, I'm gonna tell you why Kanye West got a lot of flack, and I'm gonna tell you what I honestly think he's doing or what his mind state is at. And this is all an opinion. Let me look up some lyrics real quick. But anyway, Kanye West has been a very big pro-Black advocate, and it said like he's basically everything that he's saying right now that he supports is a contradiction of a lot of stuff that he raps about. And I'm trying to find this Donald Trump lyric that he said, I'm so appalled, balding Donald Trump taking dollars from y'all. Like, I mean, yeah, like look up the lyrics to So Appalled from Kanye. He talks about Donald Trump briefly in the middle verse. But
what's the song called?
So Appalled. Look up the lyrics. If you pop it up, if it pops up, it should be in like the third little paragraph. I'm so appalled, balding Donald Trump taking dollars from y'all.
Okay, how long ago did this come out?
Let's see. That was a Watch the Throne album. I have no clue. That might have been like pre-Hillary.
No, but you do realize that only 2 or 3 years ago, Donald Trump was not. He wasn't a political figure. People knew him as a business hustler.
No, but the year prior to that, he was trying to get in the race. But all I'm saying is this: you go from talking shit about somebody in a bar, like whatever, taking little jabs at him in a bar, regardless if it's about him political race or just him on a personal level. You're taking jabs at him, but now you're praising him. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of contradictory. But the reason I honestly believe this, and you saw the same interview that I saw. So, and I said this the week that Kanye started talking. I said, it's my belief that Kanye, what he's trying to do is he's trying to appeal to a different audience. Remember what happened when Joy Vila wore that Make America Great Again dress? What happened to her album sales on iTunes? It fucking went up, right? She had a whole different kind of audience. And what I think, Kanye West, the year prior to that, when he had that nervous breakdown, all he was doing was he was bitching and complaining about how nobody wanted to hear his ideas, how nobody wanted to let him in the door, and nobody wanted to support his shit that he was thinking about, And he's blaming all these people, and a lot of them just so happen to be white. Now, fast forward, here we are. Now, all of a sudden, he's complimenting Trump, and he's appealing to a different audience now. I think he honestly thinks that taking his stand is going to open up doors for him to get those connections that he's always wanted. And I felt like he believed that the way that he used to talk, that wasn't going to get him in the door. And he even kind of like, it kind of echoes even in the interview that he's talking about when he's talking about how with certain companies, it was like, oh, you can't do that, boy. Remember when he was saying that?
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
So it kind of resonates now. And it to me, that kind of put the nail in the coffin when I was listening to this interview. And I'm just like, okay, so I was right. I think that he's using this as an opportunity to appeal to a different audience that he feels like can do more for him.
Right. And the opportunism issue is something that, I agree with. But the fact is, there's other examples right, parallel to this with Roseanne and Joy Villa, like you're saying. I think with Joy Villa, she needed it a lot more than Kanye West does, because I think any album he'll release will have a very good record sale. But Roseanne, for example, like Kanye West, for many years, she was kind of, the forgotten stepchild of the media because she was on the radical left politically. Now she's done this massive, this metamorphosis because of Trump, also possibly because of personal disputes with people on the left. But I think that people are missing the point here. And that is that there are artists, especially in music, that they have kind of a break in their career where they lose their mojo, which he was talking about a lot during the interview with Charlemagne. So a pretty good interview. Some of that was kind of getting tired of him talking about fashion and fucking Photoshop and stuff like that. But the thing I'm trying to say here is, Cat Stevens, for example, he decided, I think 9 years into his career, he converted to Islam and abandoned his music career for I think over 20 years. You have some bands never change. AC/DC, they never went through a maturity. It's the same band it always was. Even you replace the players, it's the same band. You could look at a band like U2. In the 80s, they put together some of the greatest anthems of the time. In the 2000s, what do they do? They basically, I think one of their albums sold a lot of records because iTunes forced anybody who had an iPhone to have it. So those were counted as sales. So that's how bad their records have been, in recent years. They're just, there's nothing special about them. So this I think is him adapting to the market as he sees it, opportunistically, like you're talking about. But that does not invalidate the possibility that in his mind he's undergoing a change of attitude. That does happen. So, Adrian, your thoughts? I mean, I don't think you've spoken up about this since we started, but except that you don't like Kanye.
Mostly, my main problem actually I've been having is how many. Just again, it's just how many people on the right, how many conservatives. Because personally, I kind of consider myself right wing. Is just for how long they'll rail against liberal Hollywood or liberal mainstream media, but now that they have a celebrity over on their side, they're just now doing exactly what the same thing is, that they see the problem on the left. Is they're just crowding around him, hanging on to his every word, defending him no matter what. When sure, it's and I think I may have already said it during this stream. I've said it's good to get the more conservative message out because he's got such a large platform. But they're falling into the same traps of just starting to they're falling into the same traps of just idolizing him no matter what. Meanwhile, again, he's just said a bunch of ridiculous things in the past, and he's done a bunch of ridiculous things. He's just a ridiculous person, and he doesn't really deserve much idolization. And personally, I've heard him talk, and he's never said anything that wows me. And now he wants to jump into the political sphere. I personally just don't have time for the guy, and I don't really have time to give him so much praise. That's all I can really say on it, I think.
Ramon, I disagree with you about the album sale, though. His previous album, Life of Pablo, did way worse than his other albums. And then also Yeezus was doing pretty bad, too. Like, it did okay, but it wasn't as widely accepted. And then his last album that came out, Life of Pablo, like, it did fucking horrible. Even he talked about it in an interview where he was like, oh, I have this album out and it's a great piece of work, but like ain't nobody buying it. Like it ain't circulating like it's supposed to. Like it's because he was losing it. Like it wasn't as pilling.
I think what I noticed from the interview, and you probably noticed it too, that it was that he wasn't talking as much about music as he was about fashion, and he's been distracted for a long time. And I think like I said, the last album I listened to from beginning to end by him was College Dropout, because I had a roommate who was much more into it. And, I thought it was a good album, but, I'm not a huge hip hop guy. I think the only other hip hop artist that I regularly listen to would probably be, Ice Cube or.
You seem like a Wu-Tang guy.
I did used to listen to Wu-Tang, but it's been a long time. A long, long time. I don't even remember what was the name of the album. But the issue I'm seeing here.
Time in Shaolin.
Yeah, it was from like 1996. So
36 Chambers.
36 Chambers. That was the one. I remember that. I remember I got it from Columbia CD Club. Everybody remembers ripping those idiots off. So listen. So the issue I'm seeing here. I do see and I understand skepticism from both of you about Kanye West's motives and whether it's even relevant, because, he does have like a history of being kind of this media, paparazzi bait. I kind of think of him as the rap version of Liam Gallagher, if you guys know Oasis. So what I'm saying here is it doesn't even matter if it is Kanye. What matters is the reaction from both sides about Kanye. Yes, you're seeing conservatives inflate kind of the message here, because Kanye West, I don't think tomorrow he's going to get into politics. This whole thing, Kanye 2024, is kind of like a meme. I think it's used by trolls. It's kind of funny. It would be funny if it actually happened.
No, I think he's really going to try, because he mentioned it a few times in the interview, and it didn't seem like in a joking manner. Like I think he's really like, I don't know if you noticed it, but whatever he decides to engulf himself in at that moment, he's going to go at that shit head on, and he's going to try to pull through until it's successful. Like, that's why he was saying, like, at the end of the interview, he's going into architecture. And then he's talking about how he grew his shoe company to $1 billion company, and how he's trying to grow his clothing company.
He would fail if he made a political run too, because everybody, all his fans, people who listen to his music, I'm guaranteeing that at least a good 7 or 8 out of 10 of them are not very politically active or politically knowledgeable. Just he doesn't really seem to attract that base of people who would care about politics. And when you get out there, people who are aware of him, people who he gives name recognition to, they're probably going to just think that he's kind of a dumbass, when he gets into debates. And then if I'm thinking more like people, like if my parents, again, we're Canadian, but if we were in America and say my parents suddenly saw Kanye come out and run for whatever Senate, Congress, they would just have no interest in him whatsoever. So at least Donald Trump had some well-known recognition, and the fact that he at least had branded his name so much made him look very successful. Kanye just doesn't have the same grasp of the overall culture, I don't think. So I think if he was actually make a political run in 2024, I think he would bow out pretty damn quickly.
Well, I'll make one final point about Kanye, and this is why I think it's become such a huge issue, and it's torching the Twitter sphere right now. The issue is that the Democratic Party is desperate to keep voters active, especially minority voters. They want people to be registered to go out and vote for 2018. And the issue that's been coming up with that is that what they typically do, they'll try a number of approaches. One of the approaches I know is that they'll have churches and unions drive poor black people to the polls, and I know this firsthand because I know somebody who does it. Not going to say who, and they'll have them go there and tell them who to vote for. So that's one tactic, and that usually is more active with the church crowd and people who are more middle-aged or whatever, elderly.
Oh, did Bolt just drop out?
I think he did.
Oh, he's gone. Uh-oh, he must have lagged.
All right, take over time.
All right, sweet. It's perfect time, David. Shill your shit. Oh,
damn.
Bold, we were about to shill our stuff, man.
Did I fall out of where did I leave off?
Where were you actually? Yeah, just give me 1 second.
I don't know. We were too busy trying to take over the show.
Hold on.
We were still on the discussion of Kanye.
Did I start with the Democratic Party stuff yet?
Yeah, you were talking about the Democrats.
Okay.
Oh, you were talking about churches driving black people to the polls and then who to vote for.
Oh, so that wasn't long ago. Okay.
Yeah, so, you just dropped in the middle of your.
Yeah, I saw an error, but it was like 10 seconds after what you were talking about. So what I was saying was that there's a couple other tactics that they use. So one of them is the church tactic. The other tactic is they'll go to college campuses and they'll try, and they'll go anywhere they think that they can find people to go and vote. And I see it at the library, for example. I'll go to the library and they'll walk up to any black person and try to get them to vote, to file an absentee ballot, and then they'll usually tell them how to vote. And I actually almost got into an exchange with a woman doing it because she was pretty. She was actually going up to a lot of black people, but if she saw somebody who was looked like kind of white trash, she'd pretty much ignore them. So anyway, the other thing that they'll do in order to increase the black vote is they'll buy into this whole celebrity culture, which that includes Kanye. By the way, I mean, remember the story I was telling about the fundraiser? I mean, Kanye was one of the people who put it together. Over here in Ohio, they used LeBron James pretty heavily. They used I remember the week before the 2016 election, they had Jay-Z put on a free concert here in Cleveland with I think it was with Beyonce, or it might have been with Beyonce's sister, Solange. I don't remember who. Yeah, so they're not pitching actual ideas to the community. What they're pitching is an image. They're pitching the image of black celebrity to the black voter here in the country. And when you have one of the people who's one of the most centered on the public sphere, black celebrities like Kanye West, who pretty much says, fuck you guys, I don't care about this anymore, I'm not going to be a Democrat, I might even be a Republican, maybe, they go into a panic. And it's obvious they've gone into a panic. How else do you explain this ridiculous Grio article, we're going to trade Kanye West for Michelle Wolf? I mean, does anybody actually think that Michelle Wolf is more talented at her craft than Kanye West is at rapping?
Bro, people have been trying to trade people for the longest.
No, but how does it make any sense? The only just. I mean, this is a person. She's a Wall Street banker who, through her connections, made it to become the White House Correspondents' Dinner comedian. So they want to hypothetically, if you could do a racial draft, which I know we're talking about a joke, but still, let's think about it hypothetically. You're going to trade one of the more successful, I guess, fashion designers, successful rappers, successful at a number of other businesses, people for her. It's just ridiculous. It shows the shallowness of the conversation on I guess I'd call it the black left. And I really don't understand it. I don't understand how people like that can take themselves seriously. You can critique Kanye West's tweets, which people are doing, granted. But the fact that they're freaking out about it, the fact that Maxine Waters said today that he needs somebody to kind of guide him and tell him what to think, that basically shows how panicked they are. What?
That's insulting.
Well, I mean, I'll read you exactly what she said.
Well, the dude, obviously, he actually admitted to having mental health issues as well, too.
He does have mental health issues, but the issue is that, Maxine Waters, you could probably make a good case that she has mental health issues. She said that Putin invaded Korea, for example. I mean, what?
See, but that's just probably a dumbass statement where you don't do your research. Just like Kanye. Kanye was doing that shit today too.
But Kanye is not an elected member of Congress.
True, touche. I'll give you that one.
So Maxine Waters was asked by Politico about the rapper's recent embrace of mainstream conservatism. I still don't think that's. I mean, I'm with you guys. I'm a little skeptical. I think he's just he's just dabbling. He's trying to get interested in something. I don't think he has a concrete philosophy. So she says Kanye West is a very creative. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm getting a little wheel when I do the cursor. Kanye West is a very creative young man who has presented some of the most revolutionary material in the African American community. But we also think that sometimes Kanye West talks out of turn, and perhaps sometimes he needs some assistance in helping him to formulate some of his thoughts. So she said, but we also think, so who's we? We don't think that he actually means to do harm, but we're not sure he really understands the impact of what he's saying at the time that he's saying it and how that weighs on particularly the African American community and for young people in general. And I think he should think twice about politics and maybe not have so much to say. So this is the first time I've ever seen, obviously, Adrian says, celebrities, fuck them. Their opinions don't necessarily matter. I agree with him on that. This is the first time I hear kind of a Democrat saying, the celebrity doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. She's never said that about Jimmy Kimmel. Never said that about Natalie Portman. Never said that about that retard Sarah Silverman, who's also an unfunny comedian. Never said that about, give me another name. They'll say it about Ted Nugent. They'll say it about Hank Williams. They'll say it about Kanye West. But the commonality here is that when a big time celebrity wants to speak out on behalf of an issue like what she wants, she's glad to have them. She's a Los Angeles area congresswoman. She would love to have celebrities speak on her behalf, even though they possibly have less knowledge of the issues than she does. But when somebody wants to speak out against those opinions, she says they shouldn't have as much to say.
But what she's saying does kind of make sense though. About she was saying that he talks before he fully understands the situation, and it kind of actually happened today because he was on TMZ and he was saying that he was just like, he was like slavery was a choice, but like the way that he delivered it was like fucking terrible, and I was just like, okay, I get what you're saying. And I know you probably could have reworded that in a much more understanding way, like because I think he was aiming more towards the idea of mentality which is if you go to his Twitter feed, you'll see him trying to explain himself in like maybe like 20 tweets. But yeah, like it's the way that you pitch an idea. Like you have to really think about it before you go out and you say it. Like he's been on this rant shit about like, oh, spreading love and forgiving people and not placing blame and all this other bullshit. But then he also went on TMZ and then pointed at each and every staff member and said there's the reason why he got liposuction and was addicted to opioids. So, you know what I mean? Like, this dude, I don't know.
Right. But
I was gonna.
Yeah, go ahead, Adrian.
I was just gonna say though, I have been thinking about it, and I have found a use for Kanye West. So, what was the name of that comedian again at the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Michelle Wolf.
Michelle Wolf. So what we would have do is have Kanye around at all times. So in a situation like this, when Michelle Wolf starts making her jokes, you send Kanye out, he takes the mic and he says, I'm gonna let you finish, but Trump is the best president of all time. And whenever there's any criticism, you just send him out and then he'll always cut them off just to say Trump is the best president of all time, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the greatest spokesperson of all time.
That's funny.
That is funny.
But it's funny because
wasn't the White House Correspondents' Dinner, Adrian?
I know you should be an organizer.
Seriously, people need to start putting me in charge, and then watch it all fall apart. I'm not that organized.
So who would your celebrity spokesperson be? The Weeknd?
What's that?
I was saying, who would the celebrity spokesperson in Canada be? The Weeknd or Drake?
Oh God! If we're talking more culturally, politically, sort of this sort of thing we do, then I'd actually argue that you could probably put Jordan Peterson these days, who's kind of a Canadian celebrity. But yeah, if we're talking about more people would know, then you probably are better off saying someone like Drake or someone like that.
Or The Weeknd.
So I think that basically what I'll my final word about Kanye is that I think that we're far from hearing the last of this because, the cultural issue is really what I think is driving this story. That, even though we don't know if he even has any political ideas at all, but he's obviously rebelling against some sort of conventional thinking in the Black community. And when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus trying to react against him, they're not the best spokespeople for their own point of view. Tavis Smiley, who's on, I think he's on NPR or PBS, is a Black liberal with great argumentative skills. But if you look at people like Hank Johnson, the congressman from Atlanta on the Congressional Black Caucus, who, he once wondered if Guam would capsize if you put a military base on it, or Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston, who back in I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, she said, North and South Vietnam eventually got over their issues and went to peace, which is, if you know anything about the Vietnam War, that didn't really happen. They don't. The Black community has been led by a lot of people who, if they were my leaders, I would find them to be an embarrassment. I don't care if it sounds insensitive to say that. I think these people are honestly, they're robbing. They're first of all robbing the taxpayer, but they're actually robbing their own constituencies of time and their own tax money. So, anybody else have anything to say about Kanye? Or
all right, so if Kanye drops his album and this other Kid Cudi album that he's working on, and you don't hear shit else about fucking him talking about conservatism or anything else, Ramon, Bold, you owe me some cookies, man. You gotta bake me some damn cookies and fucking mail them to me. I guarantee you that's what's gonna happen.
I agreed with you on that. Why do I owe you anything?
I don't know.
I agree that it could be out of opportunism. I think it's a mystery what's going on right now. But the most obvious explanation is what you were saying.
Oh, because you seem kind of sold on he might be having some ideology changes.
No, I think what's going on is that yes, he was he was disaffected. He was disillusioned with the other celebrities that he was hanging out with, and and possibly with the liberal establishment. And it wasn't because he started believing in conservatism; it was more because he stopped believing in the people around him. He was talking about that too during the interview, not just politically, but professionally. He was talking about people he got bitter with, with Charlemagne, and that's how sometimes these things happen. It happens due to a selfish reason. It happens due to like Cat Stevens, the one I was talking about earlier, the singer. I think he embraced Islam while he was I think he was undergoing some sort of serious illness or something. You know, that's how some of these things happen. So yeah, I think, you know, this is a mystery. I think people are blowing it out of proportion, but it's too late. You know, the Kanye West crisis is, you know, it's irreversible. You can't put the genie back in the bottle with this one. Does anybody want to keep talking about Kaepernick?
I mean, we never really. Oh yeah.
I guess we didn't really touch on him much. We kind of mentioned it in passing. Yeah, just want to remember Kaepernick was the one who was leading the kneeling during the national anthem in the NFL. Eh?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, Kaepernick personally, I don't know. I think he's just been overblown by everyone, and like right off the bat, I didn't see it as being. He didn't take much of a protest, you know, but the left kind of just blew him up because he was willing to take a kneel during the national anthem. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm more of a patriot. I always think that it's the national anthem isn't the time to do a protest of that sort, mostly because there are people who have actually sacrificed a lot, fought and died for that, for the, I guess maybe I'm being corny, but the freedom of our country. So I feel like the national anthem's one way to honor them. So, but again, Kaepernick, he, from what I heard, he wasn't anything special in the NFL, and then he just was getting featured everywhere simply because he took a kneel during the NFL. And now you're saying he's being put up, he's being put up next to Nelson Mandela and Malala. I mean, there's plenty of people who have problems with Nelson Mandela's ideology and his past, but then we also have Malala, who was shot protesting the Taliban and nearly died. Actually, fun little fact, a woman I used to work with was actually a nurse in the hospital in England when Malala came in, so that was kind of cool to hear that story. But honestly, I don't think he deserves to be up next to people like that. He hasn't sacrificed that much.
Okay, number 80, your position on that.
I mean, I don't think it was blown out of proportion by the left. I really think it was kind of more so blown out of proportion from the right, because I think that if they never would have said this man is disrespecting the flag, he's disrespecting the country, he's disrespecting this and that, do you honestly think that would have caught on as much as it did?
No, because it wasn't the right that asked him the question after the game. It was reporters, and the reporters are not right-wing reporters. So he actually made those statements. It wasn't him. I mean, he sat on the bench, first of all. It wasn't him kneeling at the beginning. And I know people say, oh, well, somebody told him to change it to start kneeling. Okay, so
yeah, let's
an ex-soldier. But the reason that it caught wind was because, yes, the reporters asked him the question. And then the left-wing press started, you know, hyping up his whole agenda. And then you saw him with the pig socks, and the much later with the Fidel Castro shirt. And one of the things that I think, I mean, like, what was it? Adrian, you said that you're not sure really what his statement was. Well, I've always said I'm skeptical he had a political goal to begin with. I think eventually he had to make one up, because what I always thought he had a selfish motivation. His motivation was to get traded by the 49ers, and it had only something very tangential to do with activism.
But if he wanted to get traded, then why would he do something that would knowingly get you blackballed? Probably.
No, not necessarily, because at the time there were a lot of athletes who were, you know, taking, you know, very big political stands. There were the St. Louis Rams players about I think 2 or 3 years, or maybe a year before that,
with the hands up.
With the hands up, you know, and then when the team moved away from St. Louis, I don't think any of them quit the Rams. You know.
No, but I mean, but see, that the thing is that couldn't be. How could you twist that and say that was a spit in America's face?
Of course, it's a spit in America's face. First of all, it's
the Rams. Okay, go ahead.
Because the fact is that the Justice Department, the Obama Justice Department, concluded that the whole hands up, don't shoot thing was a lie. they actually found that there was no evidence, no witness testimony that could back that up. In fact, the only witnesses that claimed that ended up contradicting their stories, and I think they ended up not being able to. The prosecution in Darren Wilson's trial, the people who were putting the cop up for, they wanted to put him up for trial. They declined to use those people because they couldn't be relied on. So the fact is that there's no way to validate that that actually happened. And in fact, the forensic evidence indicated that he was, he was engaged in a struggle with Officer Wilson. So
even the Young Turks rolled back their hands up, don't shoot.
So yeah, they can talk a lot about hands up, don't shoot, but they're just as uninformed as what we're talking about with Kanye right now. And we're still talking about, in either case, celebrities. We're talking about Kanye being a celebrity. We're talking about we're not talking about people who are engaged day to day in working on policy or working in criminal justice or investigation. So it's not like we can exactly fault them for being not being Johnny Cochran or somebody with very good knowledge of the law or of social trends or something. But the issue here is that when I'm getting back to Colin Kaepernick, I saw it as being a selfish motivation. I saw him trying to piss off Chip Kelly, who had already had problems with black players before, and trying to get a trade away from the 49ers. Chip Kelly was the new coach at the time. So yeah, I think that the whole story, it kind of it caught up, it took on a life of its own.
And I still think that would have got him not traded. Like, that doesn't, to me, because the St. Louis Rams thing that you mentioned, that was before. That was when it was like still freshly hyped. There was still like kind of like things that weren't disclosed fully yet. I don't think the investigation was anywhere near being finished when they did that. So if they were to do that after the fact, like way down the line, and it's already been determined that that wasn't the case, then okay, fine, whatever. But it's not, to me, it's not. You can't spin that in such a manner that they spun Colin Kaepernick sitting out. Because I remember when they first brought it up, the photo that they took of Kaepernick when he was sitting down when the national anthem was playing, like, it seemed one of those things where it was like, oh, it wasn't really a focus picture. It's just something that they noticed and they focused in on that picture. Like, why is he sitting down? And then they started noticing the trend. Oh, he's still sitting down. And then after a while, that's when it started being blown up. And then that's when they asked them or whatever. And then that's when everything else went where it went. But at the same time, if it was selfish reasons, why would you then not be in the NFL? And then you will also donate portions of your money to a bunch of different charities that were to help these different causes. And then on top of that, when you have a meeting with an NFL team this season or training camp invite or whatever the case may be, and they ask you, would you not kneel? Would you still do it? And you say, yes, I would still do it.
No, because the whole reason is that his motivation changed throughout the protest. Just like that, he didn't start out with the goal of changing anything. That's my opinion. The only thing he wanted to change was that he wanted out of the 49ers organization and possibly to get some wind at his sails from this whole bullshit that was happening in 2016 about, I'm suddenly, after 2 years, I suddenly give a fuck about people getting shot by the police. Well, the whole thing had happened for 2 or 3 years prior with Trayvon Martin and other things. The guy was kissing his bicep the whole time. Suddenly he gets benched in favor of Blaine Gabbert. Remember Blaine Gabbert? So he gets benched for Blaine Gabbert, and he gets a new coach, Chip Kelly, who has a history of problems with black players like LaShawn McCoy, who's a great player. And also with the Riley Cooper situation back in Philadelphia. So it's an excellent excuse to start a racial controversy to get him traded to Denver or to another team that could possibly use him and that could possibly be competitive. The 49ers were going to suck that year. So this is a football-centric issue. And Chip Kelly was not I don't think that he was he had the balls to actually take control of the situation anyway, because he was an awful coach. He was a disgrace everywhere he coached in the NFL. You know, I know some of the people in the audience could care less because this is football talk. So that's where Colin Kaepernick's whole scheme fell apart. The whole scheme was predicated on the idea that he would cause enough friction with Chip Kelly that they would be forced to trade him. But the fact is that the 49ers GM at the time, Trent Baalke, or was I think that was still Trent Baalke, he was not able to trade him because, yes, the media blew up this whole protest, and he became a toxic product. Nobody could you imagine him being traded to the Denver Broncos? Do you know how many empty seats would be in that stadium the next week because of having a guy in Colorado, which is not exact. It's not the same as San Francisco. So they would have suffered a commercial failure because they would have traded for this guy. Then I mean, think about all the other teams that might have needed a quarterback. Indianapolis. Who was another team? Remember, I mean, it was 2016, so I don't remember who. But I'm not saying that he's the smartest thinker. I think Kaepernick is an idiot. I've said that some of the people who were protesting the police thing, like Richard Sherman and who's the other guy? Eric Reed, they're more sophisticated thinkers. I think Kaepernick is really a moron. And eventually he overcommitted. He also could have played the next year for San Francisco, and he didn't accept he didn't accept his contract option. So they released him. So then he makes up this whole thing. Oh, I can't get signed by a team. I can't get signed by a team. Well, then he goes to Baltimore. His girlfriend tweets out a picture of Ray Lewis as a slave to the owner of the Ravens. What's his name? Steve Bisciotti, using the Django meme. So that's what you get with Colin Kaepernick. You just get endless embarrassment.
He didn't say though that the team didn't want to sign him. It became a big thing after everybody else kept bringing it up, and then eventually it got to the point where it seemed like they were colluding against him.
It doesn't matter. He's the guy. I don't care if they're colluding against him. I think the guy's a pathetic idiot.
Yeah, but
this is what his girlfriend put out while he's negotiating with the Ravens. A picture of the owner and Ray Lewis compare, and it is funny. I'm not going to say it's not funny, but you don't tweet that out while you're negotiating a contract. You're basically calling Ray Lewis Steve Bisciotti's house slave. So explain that. I mean, collusion. I don't think collusion is the issue. I think the issue is that Colin Kaepernick is a moron, and his girlfriend is helping to ruin his career, or he doesn't really want to play football.
I think it has something to do with. It seems to me like you were mentioning how he ended up getting benched. I think it may have something to do with, for selfish reasons for sure, but it has more to do with when some people gain the spotlight and then lose it. They do everything they can in order to gain it back. And I think that in that moment, he, even if his intentions were, who knows, maybe in the original moment, he was just being lazy or something, was sitting down, but then it blew up. And then he found a way of making his way back into the spotlight. So he played it up. That's, it's possible that, it could be possible that he was upset at the coach and wanted to get traded. But when I look at it, I just think it has more, it seems to be mostly that. It's just that he's just trying to be relevant.
You could do way less to get traded, though. That's the thing that I'm trying to convey.
Okay,
here.
give an example, because he was trying to get traded before.
Dude, you can fucking argue with the fucking coach. You can punch the coach. You can do a lot of shit to get traded.
But the whole point is that
very irrational. You could be.
Look, I'm not saying that he's this. Again, I'm saying that he's an idiot, and that's why I think that the whole plan was retarded. Okay?
I don't think that was the plan, because if he really wanted to get traded, why would you?
He did want to get traded. It's known that he hated.
Okay,
he hated playing for the 49ers. So
if he wanted to get traded, why would you do something that would get you blackballed?
Okay, fact or not a fact, did Colin Kaepernick want to get traded in 2016?
Yes, he wanted to get traded.
Okay, so if he's trying to do this, and at the same time he's been benched in favor of Blaine Gabbert, then, I think that this kind of, it defies logic because the whole thing is just idiotic. But that's the most logical conclusion I can make. And people are trying to make the point that, oh, he was standing up for racial justice or whatever. If you listen to him during those post games, the guy was incoherent. It was like listening to one of those mumble people, one of those mumble rappers, Lil Yachty. The guy he's an embarrassment to whatever cause he talks about. When I listen to Richard Sherman, and I know I'm sounding like I'm brown nosing for Richard Sherman, I think that guy could probably be a talk show host. The guy's like really got a gift for shit talking people. He would be a great media person. And the unfortunate,
and he's a 49er now.
Yeah, I think he is a 49er now. Yeah, you're right. But at the time he was a Seahawk.
Yeah.
Which isn't
Marshawn Lynch would be a funny ass. That would be funny.
Well, look at Marshawn Lynch, who was another player who was involved in this whole controversy. So, most of what he was doing, it wasn't an issue of him wanting to get traded. He was just a temperamental guy, and he hated talking to the media anyway. So yeah, he would sit down for the anthem and stuff like that, and he would make his statement. But he with Marshawn Lynch, first of all, he's more of an asset to teams. But also, I mean, he got kicked out of a game last year for fighting. So,
and he caught the train back.
What?
He was on the train. After he got kicked out of that game, he jumped on the train and he was riding around with fans.
Right. So some of these people, they can have like these causes that they believe in, but they're not the best advocates for them. And they, the same thing that you can say about Kanye West. He's not a good advocate. You could probably say about Kaepernick. You could probably say about Lynch. You could probably say about a number of these celebrities and athletes and whatever. And then, that's why I call into question. I'm looking at this list of the ambassadors of conscience. You have Václav Havel, who is the former president of the Czech Republic and a former political prisoner. And then you have the former president of Ireland, Mary Robinson, and Hilda Morales Trujillo is a Guatemalan women's rights activist. You have U2. Yeah,
See,
this award
right
is fucking bullshit. The award is bullshit. Nelson Mandela. What?
I said, there you go, right there. You too.
Yeah. You have Peter Gabriel, who I am a fan of. Do you guys like Peter Gabriel?
Yes, I do.
He's a musician, right?
Yeah, he's a pretty good musician. Then you have Aung San Suu Kyi, who was a political prisoner, I think, for 30 years in Burma. Malala Yousafzai. You have Joan Baez, who's a folk singer and activist. And then Ai Weiwei, a contemporary artist and activist in China, who, God knows who these people are. Angelique Kidjo, she was I've heard her music.
Kendrick Lamar.
And these Senegalese rappers. Then Alicia Keys.
Alicia Keys is dope.
Yeah, but this Ambassador of Courage Conscience Award is again, it's like a star fucking mechanism. It doesn't. What's the point? What the hell is the point?
Then what are you getting mad about if it's a star award and then another star gets it?
Well, what I'm seeing here is that there are people around the world who, and I guess you could pick somebody worse. There are other people in my mind that could be worse recipients of the award than, let's say, Colin Kaepernick. I'm not going to mention them here because it would start a totally different conversation. But the issue is either this is an award that talks about, that actually awards people who have suffered from persecution.
Oh shit! He got booted out again. Take over.
I love how he keeps getting booted out of his own stream.
Exactly right. It's perfect. I think that's a sign from the universe saying that he should just shut the fuck up. The universe doesn't like your bashing of Colin Kaepernick. It is spoken.
The Google overlords have spoken that they don't like what we're talking about.
Pretty much. He hasn't came back though. That's a surprise. Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is.
You guys hear me again? I don't know why that happened.
We thought you got censored by the Google overlords.
I think 80 dropped off too.
Oh, he just did, yeah. That means I'm probably going to drop off once he comes back.
Yeah, let's see if he reconnects.
Wow, this stream's been a little wonky, hasn't it?
Where'd I leave off?
Crap. Sorry, I have a terrible memory. When things like this distract me, I always forget.
Anyways, all I'm saying is, there's so much you can say about Amnesty International, which I do have criticism for them as an organization. But if the award is for activism, then he just popped on and fell off again. Are we running up against a limit?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, here he is.
Okay, cool.
Hey, did you get dropped too?
Yeah, man, the Google overlords, man.
Yeah, the Google overlords are trying to stop me from talking shit about Amnesty International.
Nah, they don't like your Colin Kaepernick bashing. I think you should. That's a sign from the universe that's telling you to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so it's gonna take a few more minutes for me to shut the fuck up about this.
Damn. Universe, work again. Boot him.
Look, the guy. This award is bullshit, and it's the same. It's the same issue that you see. I mean, would you say that he is on the same level as a Pakistani girl who got shot in the face for going to school?
No, but I think he's a better pick than you too.
Yeah, but okay, so
or Alicia Keys. The plot thickens, Emily Dickens.
So you know what? I mean, I guess maybe you have a point. Maybe the award doesn't matter anyway.
That's how we're going to chalk it up.
What do you think about that, Adrian?
That the award doesn't matter?
Yeah.
I fall half and half with that because I agree that personally these sort of awards to me just mean nothing. But as long as there's people out there that are willing to take them seriously, then I think the awards in the end of the day do matter. Just because I guess it kind of falls underneath that whole idea of culture is just upstream of or downstream of politics. So,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, nothing. Just going to summarize that. Yeah. So personally, I never care about them. But if we're talking on the larger political scale, then yeah, I think they do actually make a difference.
So I'm going to propose a new award that will, and a title, Ambassador of Truth, which is, and there's an obvious person to take this award.
I accept.
Let me just, no, it's not anybody who's on here.
What? I thought I was dead. I thought I was a shoo-in for that, man.
No, you guys can't do nothing on Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear. Those nasty choppers there. This guy, Ambassador of Truth, he goes everywhere, offends anybody, obnoxious, luxury cars. That is the Ambassador of Truth. He's the nominee and the winner and the eternal holder of the Ambassador of Truth award from the Hellfire. And I know, we didn't do this democratically, which is kind of the idea of giving it to Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear. Do you guys watch that show?
No, not really. I mean, I've watched it probably a little bit to fall asleep.
Do you know who that guy is? He's the guy who got kicked out of Argentina.
I know who Jeremy Clarkson is, though. I've heard him in a bunch of rap punchlines.
How do you get kicked out of Argentina?
He wore one of his cars had like a Falklands Islands license plate that was making fun of the war. So and I respect that's one of the few, Britain has so many pussies in charge of it right now. They could use a Jeremy Clarkson or somebody like that. And
I'm probably gonna go to the UK next year.
Yeah, man, you better pack some sporks because you can't have a knife and fork there anymore or something.
Oh, really? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they're doing like more and more stupid laws of, because of all the stabbings.
This is LA, dude. We'll just make a fucking shank out of a toothbrush or something.
All right. Any final words from how about you go first, 80, and then Adrian?
My final words are Colin Kaepernick's protest was noteworthy. He deserved the reward, and it's a big middle finger to Bold Like a Leopard. Oh yeah.
Okay, Adrian.
Blown out of proportion. Don't think he has much relevance, and I think he's just trying to capitalize on fame and money right now more than anything else. So he's just one of those celebrities that I hope that we don't hear from ever again.
Okay, so conclusion, according to number 80, Kaepernick is a tool of capitalism. Thank you very much. I'm just kidding. No, you said
That's funny.
capitalized.
I mean, it's funny because if he was, then he would have took that contract he just got offered by the Seahawks. All he had to do was
did he get
stop
an
kneeling.
offer? Did he get an offer?
They were going to offer him if he said that he was going to stop kneeling. They were definitely going to give him an offer. He said no. They said, "Fucking end the discussion."
Okay, so then there's no collusion. His lawsuit is bullshit then.
How?
Because they offered him a contract, but it's a contract with conditions.
I mean, look how long it took.
Doesn't matter.
The Seahawks are in desperate need anyway. So
do you know how hard it is to prove collusion? By the way, I heard it's like extremely hard. I mean,
apparently it's fucking hard. Like, how long has this collusion shit been going on with the president?
Yeah, he could probably start colluding more with like other countries in the meantime.
Less collusion and more canoodling.
All right, that's it. We've gone on long enough. I want to thank everybody that was here. We had Adrian, number 80, Alex Ioannidis. We had
black eye.
Yeah, man, that was something. Squinting was distracting. In the chat, we had Larry Gerke. Always glad to have you. You know, in the midnight hour, Mao. He's a Maoist. He's a Maoist, and don't ever let him forget that. We had Lennon McCarthy. We had Pinochet, Mega Man EXE, who is kind of a mystery to me. I think we had Truth and Peace was here earlier. Bunch of other people. Zardrell McKnight was in the chat earlier. You know, all the usual rabble that listens to this show.
Shout out to number 80
Mark Anthony, by the way. What's that?
Shout out to number 80 for giving us the cool name of the Hellfire Club. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. He came up with it, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, J-Man Truth Seeker was also here.
If somebody in your chat can find out where that's from, they get 2 thumbs up from me.
The Hellfire?
The Hellfire Club. Aha! The plot thickens, Emily Dickens.
All right. That's it. Everybody have a good night, and until next time.